General, good evening. Brilliant as usual, I see. However, I have sad news. Vladimir, you should hear this too before it goes public. Premier Romanov has fallen ill and will no longer be able to perform his duties.
Really?
But that is not our immediate concern. The Allies have turned to the German Professor Albert Einstein, who has built for them a chronosphere, a mass teleportation device. My intelligence sources have pinpointed their first target, our own research laboratory in the Ural Mountains. It is my belief that the Allies will attempt to steal our plans for their new apocalypse tank.
Oh. And did your intelligence not warn you that Einstein would get involved? Or is he not vulnerable to your vulturous mind?
That will be enough.
You are a traitor! And a fool if you think that I will let you get away
Enough,
with it.
General Vladimir!
My tanks, my
Consider
soldiers
yourself
are
dismissed.
at your-
And count your days. General, defend our mountains. I'll give the Premier your best wishes.
Welcome back, Commander.
Unable to comply.
We have quite the challenge ahead of us. It's simple enough to say that it is a defense mission and we have to protect the battle lab at all costs, but there's more to it than just that. As if we wouldn't just be preoccupied with units being chronosphered in everywhere, there's also the regular amount of troops that'll be flown in. And sadly, we clearly don't have the amount of air defense that we would probably be required to have this deep into Russia.
Unit ready.
Well, regardless, there's ways to mitigate these deficiencies.
Start a new life with the Allied forces. You'll get all the bread and milk you could ever want.
And somehow they've snuck in a foolish, very foolish individual going around with a speaker truck.
I am messing outside their chronosphere. A squad has just been teleported. Structure garrison. Structure abandoned.
It's also very strange that they keep in lines about how units are being teleported in, even though we know for a fact that the chronosphere can't do that. Well, at least not in game terms. So, anytime you see somebody being, or you hear about a squad being teleported in, it's safe to assume that it's the flown-in type instead.
Training. On hold.
Also, you might wonder why the screen suddenly just started revealing everything and not having fog of war. If you're paying attention to the top of the mission screen, there's, well, the hint there.
I think we should send a few dogs to sniff out enemy spies. Unit armor upgraded. Structure garrison.
So the main idea that you should have as a player is that, while it's nice hearing inspirational messages for Soviet people being lured away from their ideals, you definitely want to take out the propaganda truck, because doing so reveals the entire map. And, I mean, I guess depending on how you think about it, it's a little strange that we don't have a map of our own country. It's probably best not to think about it too much. What you should think about, however, is getting a nice amount of attack dogs to protect certain areas.
It can attack any ground or air targets and be expected to be the last unit standing. Building. On hold. Building. Tech building.
Now, there's a regular amount of units that will show up here and there. For example, the AI likes to, well, the scripting has quite a few units get dropped in and around certain areas. And you can usually be expected to come across tanks being spawned in and advancing against your position. So it helps to be very methodical about your defenses. Also, it really helps if you don't screw up capturing one of the oil derricks, so that you miss out on a lot of rather vital income. There is one deficiency to the Apocalypse tank. While it is rather amazing, it defends well against just about everything, it can heal itself if I remember correctly, doesn't really have any great deficiencies. The biggest issue with it is that it's just relatively slow compared to a lot of other units. It also has a really hard time shooting over cliffs, which makes sense with regards to what it uses for ammunition and all. But it does become quite a handicap for this mission. The Allies will get regular amounts of prism tanks, and you kind of have to plan around that.
Repairing.
It's also rather unfortunate for me that I ran out of money. It's a good idea to hold on to these oil derricks if and when possible, and, well, misplay here, which turns into another misplay further down the line, kind of screws up a little bit of my plans.
Building.
Also, interestingly, that flak cannon came in at like half HP, and I'm not quite sure why. As far as I understand it, that's not supposed to happen. In any case, you definitely want to make sure that you grab those oil derricks. Again, you need the income as much as possible, and you only have so much space for your base. And since having those oil derricks marks them as your own buildings and so on and so forth, you'll want to defend them in some capacity. Initially, I was under the impression that I would only need some flak defenses, since, well, the Tesla coil didn't really do anything, and I haven't really seen anything else come up. Sadly, that won't be the case. And we'll see just exactly how things have gone wrong. So aside from having built a quite large amount of Apocalypse tanks, you'll want to get some attack dogs and just rebuild them every so often. The AI tends to target them when they advance on your position, and other than a sneaky mention here or two, you don't really ever get told that spies are traveling around. Also, I still don't understand why capturing that platform generates those flak troopers. I assume it might have something to do with the fact that the platform is positioned awkwardly, so that it doesn't quite protect the oil derricks further to the east. I'm not really sure.
Construction complete.
In any case, it's a good thing I was going back and forth on the map, or else I would have absolutely missed those trucks.
Waiting orders. Moving. Comrade?
I don't really know what they're doing there, and I can only assume that if I don't do anything about it, they'll disappear off the map for good.
Another enemy platoon has been teleported by the chronosphere.
Location confirmed. Vehicle report. Encountering an vehicle report.
What if the planes are being chronosphered in?
Vehicle report. Vehicle report. Location reporting.
So before you ask, yes, it is important to destroy those trucks and grab the power-ups that they drop.
Vehicle report.
Unit lost. Our base is under attack. Repairing.
It's actually kind of interesting that the AI is told to use the MG version of the IFV. I wouldn't ever really categorize them as good.
Moving. Ready. Moving.
Unit lost. Our base is under attack. Building. Unit
Oh,
promoted.
and this is super
Building
dangerous.
captured.
So,
Primary building.
I don't know, maybe build a couple walls. It might help, but it kind of also just
Building.
really hampers what you can do.
Unit lost.
Generally speaking, I found it just a better idea to
Low power.
have units stationed everywhere
Unit
rather
promoted.
than building walls
Unit lost.
and so on.
Unit lost. Ore miner under attack. Unit lost.
Also, there doesn't seem to have been any way for an allied engineer or spy to get through and into
Under attack.
one of my Tesla reactors.
Repairing.
However, I do have a Tesla reactor back over at the oil derricks, and I don't have dogs there.
Our base is
So,
under attack.
I think that's what happened. Not entirely sure.
Unit lost. Building.
Annoyingly, it means I've kind of lost just about everything I can
Unit
do.
lost. New construction.
Now, the loss of my construction yard isn't the
Repairing.
worst thing in the world because, well, it's given me the ability
Our base is under
to,
attack.
well, it's generated several engineers, which I'm definitely going to want if I want to have any sort of army. That being said, I also have a ton of apocalypse tanks, so
Repairing.
barring any other catastrophe, I shouldn't be too worried, right?
Unit
Well,
lost.
at the very least, I have enough flak cannons all over the place that I shouldn't have to worry too much.
Got the knowledge. Yes, sir. Got the plans right here.
Waiting order reporting.
The walkthrough I have mentions to build quite a bit of flak troopers for your main base, but honestly, I kind of just don't prefer them over flak cannons.
Vehicle moving.
Sure, they're both useful, and the flak troopers can move around, which is pretty helpful. But the problem is that the allies, at least on hard, get so many vehicles that you kind of just have to expect your units to get crushed all the time.
The one last allied platoon has been teleported by the chronosphere.
Ready, comrade. Waiting order. Waiting order. Ready, comrade. Waiting order. Encountering enemy. Waiting. Ready, comrade.
Oh, also, I noticed something rather interesting. Some of these units are invincible.
Moving. Ready, comrade. Moving. Ready, comrade. Moving.
I didn't really feel like testing out the theory on other GIs in that same squad or platoon,
New
whatever,
construction options.
but
Unit
it
ready.
feels like a way to prevent the player from cheesing that area.
On hold.
Maybe if I'd had some attack dogs, maybe they
On
would
hold.
be able to
Cancel.
prevent that sort of issue, but it seems like those
Unit
GIs were
ready.
there the entire time.
Unit lost.
Confirmed.
Maybe it has something to do with
Unit
if
promoted.
if an AI loses all units on the map, maybe it counts it as a destroyed
Unit
faction.
promoted.
They're hard to tell at the moment,
Repairing.
but certainly seems like something I'll be looking into
Unit
once I
ready.
get to the map videos.
Structure sold. Unit lost.
Ready, comrade. Ready, comrade. Ready, comrade. Encountering enemy. Ready, comrade. Waiting. Location confirmed. Moving. Location confirmed. Vehicle reporting.
And this is kind of why I prefer having Apocalypse tanks. Prism tanks are nothing to scoff at, and honestly, I'd rather have them than anything else that could be easily wiped out by Prism tanks.
Unit ready. Training.
They kind of make a beeline for certain things. The aircraft typically
Unit
targeted my ore refineries before moving on to other targets, and the AI had a really devout
Repairing.
attention towards my construction yard.
Repairing.
So,
Unit
things to
ready.
keep in mind.
Repairing.
Waiting order. We will bury them. Vehicle reporting. Moving.
Also, I kind of forgot I was sending an engineer here, so I'll just claim I was trying to waste the AI's
Unit ready.
funds.
Primary objective achieved. Mission accomplished. Building captured.